Hi, it's Linda Winter. I want to talk about mitered corners. Now, most of us know two views of a mitered corner, but today I want to teach you three views of a mitered corner. Mitered corners are going to be one of those things that when it comes to bindings that you want to be nice and consistent. So let's take a look first at view one. We're going to zoom in on our first corner. Alright, so when we look at our first mitered corner, what we want to see is this angle, basically dissecting this corner here. This angle should always look exactly the same. Consistency is going to be the key. That's the hardest part to get perfect mitered corners. Instead of saying perfect mitered corners, I really want you to think about consistent mitered corners. There's our third mitered corner, and here's our fourth mitered corner. If you've done mitered corners before, then you know how difficult it is to get 4 perfect mitered corners that are consistent. Now that's view one. Most of us can do a perfect mitered corner pretty easily on the front side. Let's take a look at the back side. Here's my first mitered corner on the back, and again we're looking at that angle. Here's my second mitered corner on the back. Here's my third mitered corner on the back. And here's my fourth mitered corner on the back. Now this is view 2 of our mitered corner. Now we're going to take a look at view 3. This is the part that always stumped me. When we look at a mitered corner on the back side, I want you to think of a new slogan: no snouts allowed. When we take a look at this from the side view, this is our third view, you can see here's a snout or a nostril, one side of a nostril. When I flip this, you can see here's the other nostril. This is how a mitered corner should look. I'm going to bring in another piece of fabric and show you the snouts that I'm talking about. So view 2, when I fold my fabric and take a look on the back, you'll notice I've got a nice angle here, but I could also have a nice angle here. So it's view 3 that makes all the difference. Now this is the snout. And what I want you to be able to see is there's a nostril and there's a nostril. If I can get that in there, right there. So that's a snout. I said no snouts allowed. So what we want to do is take a look at where this fabric has been folded down. This gives us a snout, so what I want to do is bring this fabric down first. When I bring that fabric down, and then my mitered corner goes this way, from that angle, do you see how I have half of a nostril here? But on the other side, there's no nostril. When I turn the fabric, though, you can see the other half of that nostril. So the way that we avoid that is folding this fabric down first. So now we're going to zoom out a little bit, take a look at our minute miter to see how we do a perfect mitered corner with that no snouts allowed concept. Alright, so I'm going to grab my minute miters. Now these guys are called minute miters. They come in 3 sizes. I'm using a large and a small. This one fits the width of the binding on the front. We'll take a look at how we use this one. I've got my large minute miter. There's a triangle and I've got a triangle. What I want to do is grab this in my hand so that there's straight edge. Notice there's no straight edge over here. This straight edge goes to the outside of my project. Now having my minute miter, scooting right to the edge. Fold this fabric over nice and snug. Holding this so that this fabric catches. Do you see how that's caught in that triangle? And then this edge here has lined up to the edge of my fabric. Put a little bit of pressure here and then fold that fabric on the next side of your project. Now I'm using a zip gun. Zip guns have zip clips. These guys right here are zip clips. Of course, get rid of the thread, but you can see, let me turn this to the front. You can see how I push that in there and then just push that down and get some of those threads out. Now the zip gun in place of straight pins means I don't damage my fabric, or if they go in the carpet, you don't damage your toes. You'll place a clip here just to hold that temporarily. So now I can remove this minute miter. We're going to do a square minus a side, so a 3-sided square. 1, 2, 3. So lifting this up, 1, 2, 3. That releases that fabric, keeping that fabric in place so now I can manipulate it. And again, we're going to do 3 more things. Pop this up, get that standing nice and tall. I'm going to grab these 2 edges evenly together, and I'm going to turn this back towards where I've already sewn. And now I would sew this side down. So at the sewing machine, you would sew that down. I'm going to skip that step because we want to look at that third view. So we've done our mitered corner on the front. That's what this is. That's what this is. So we're going to look at now the back side. Let me get this fabric so we can take a look. This is where we're folding the fabric this way rather than this way because we don't want to have that snout. So I'm going to be folding this piece here, not this piece. So with our zip gun, come on in and put a clip here. And now we're going to take the small minute miter. The small minute miter because it fits the width of my binding. Just like I did before, I'm using the straight edge of the triangle here, going to the outside of the project, squeeze this, grab my fabric, scoot to the edge. See how this edge here is lined up with the edge of my quilt or my demo piece? When I fold this fabric over, I'm going to hold this nice and snug. Pulling the minute miter this way, this fabric will catch in that triangle. So hold that snug. There's my mitered corner. Now my last demo piece that I showed you that was finished, I did stitch in the ditch. So I'm going to pretend I'm going to be hand binding this. So imagine a needle and thread here. If I took a stitch right here, I'd never get this minute miter out because we have to do the three-sided square again. 1, 2, 3. So where my fingernail is where I'm going to take my first stitch. Needle and thread with a knot on it. I'm going to come up from into the quilt into the binding. Hide the knot underneath the binding, take one more locking stitch. So that needle is now in loose in my hand and my knot is underneath the binding. Minute miter I'm going to squeeze and the three-sided square. 1, 2, 3. Take that needle and thread, stitch, 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 stitch here. So we would stitch from here to here. Now if this was a really nice project, what I would do is stitch from here to here. I'm going to get right to here. I'm going to pull that needle and thread inside of here and pull that needle and thread out from here. Stitch this piece down here, taking nice stitches. When I get right into this corner, pull that through. So I've got my needle and thread here, and then I would start to stitch. Now I have a zip bind tool. Watch the video so you can see how I do the zip bind tool, using that to keep my binding consistent. But that gives us view 1, view 2, view 3, and as I said, no snouts allowed. So enjoy.